How do we hear our future self? Our future self is giving us a message. It's giving you a message. I got a message from my future self today. So, how the heck do you hear it? And what is the message? Hey, this is Rebecca Abraxas. Thanks so much for tuning in. Oh, we are remembering our greatness together. And one of the things that has been so potent lately is hearing the message from my future self. This has been really amazing. And what I do is I just get a notebook and I write down the message. But how do you know you're hearing the message from your future self and not yourself? Well, all I know is that it feels and sounds a little different when I get the messages in. So I want to tell you about how I do it. And if this feels light and right for you, give it a try. If you're like, this woman's crazy, then just throw it out the window. But this is what I do. And so this channel's all about embodying your ascended self. Now, what is your ascended self? It's your future self. Your ascended self is your future self. So when you tune into that, like it has a message for you. It has a frequency that's coming through. So this is what I do. I really like this mudra. I don't know if it's actually a real yoga mudra, but I started to do it. And I want to show you the mudra I do. I want to tell you a little bit about the intention I do. And then I'm going to tell you a little later on about how to actually hear the voice of your future self. Like, what does that sound like? How do you decipher it between your ego and your mind? All right, so let's get started here. So the first thing is, this is the mudra I do. I really like this. So I take this hand and I take the other hand, I put it on top. And what it represents to me is that my authentic God spark, authentic self, that sits within me, or that I'm remembering, that's what the greatness we're remembering, that authentic self is here. And then I put this on top. And for me, this represents connecting in with my future self, my ascended self and God source. And so what I do is I put this like this lately, and I just line it up. It feels really good to do that. I just started doing it the past month, and it just happened organically, and it feels like I'm just ching just getting it all lined up. So that's the first thing I do. Number two, the second thing I do is once I'm lined up, I just say that, you know what, I'm tuning in. I'm tuning into my ascended self, by me, as me, for me. And then I line up and I say, what message do you have for me today? Okay. And then I just sit back and you would call it meditation or stillness or just quiet listening. It's basically active listening. And so when you're listening to your future self, you want to get into the mode of active listening, just as you would actively listening to a friend. All right. You really want to get into that mode of just listening. So once this is set up, then you get into active listening mode. I always have some kind of notebook and pen. I just use my son's old notebooks that he never really finished, just to save paper. But you know, you can get a pretty notebook and a journal, whatever you want to do. But I just find paper where I can find it, and usually it's just recycled kids' school notebooks. So whatever it is for you, just get a notebook, get a pen, and be ready. All right. So you're going to be ready to listen. And so then just being in the quiet, being in the stillness of your inner self, and letting that authentic part of you, that God spark part of you, really commune with this future self, with your future self. So now we get into, how do you know? How do you know it's not your mind just going? And how do you know it's just not your ego speaking to you? How do you know it's not another entity or spirit being talking to you, or like a channel? You know, I don't exactly know the answer to that, but I have my experience, and that's worth something to share with you. Um, what I do know is that when I am close to a frequency of something, there's not a huge contrast. So, when you're talking to your future self, it is yourself. So, there's not a huge contrast, especially when you're in just this surrendered listening mode. So, it's going to feel like you because it is you. So, it takes a lot of trust. So, first thing is, it's going to sound like you. It's just going to have a different flavor. And what I've noticed is, um, it'll feel like inspiration. It'll feel like a gentle just conversation with yourself. It's not going to sound grandiose and hurry up kind of thing. That's a little bit more egoic and agenda based. Okay. So it's going to feel like natural. You're going to hear the messages just come through. And you can tell it's not your mind doing it because if you write it out, a lot of the conversations I have with my future self is I'm writing them. And as I'm writing it, it's just kind of like a flow. Maybe I'll have a hiccup on a word, but it's just flowing a message to me. And I'm not thinking of the next word. It's just kind of like automatic writing. So for me, when I'm talking to my future self, that's what it's like. It's like just a natural conversation with myself. It's not egoic where there has to be a right or wrong, good, bad, or has to happen this way. There's no agenda. All right. And then there is just this flow. Okay. And that's how you know it's not from your mind. So this is a practice I do pretty much every morning. Okay. I do my lineup, I say my intention, and then I get into stillness and receiving mode and active listening. And then I have a pen and paper ready. And I've been doing this for many, many years, not even realizing what I was doing. And now I realize, oh, I'm really tuning in to my source energy, which is that God spark nature of myself that we are here remembering. And then I'm really tuning in. I love the idea of talking to my ascended self. And almost like they have the full picture, right? Here's my life. I can't see above the maze, right? But up here, here's the helicopter looking at the maze. Here's the helicopter of my ascended self. They can see everything. So sometimes I'm like, hey, what do you see up there? And so I tune into my ascended self and get that information. And the information comes as an inspiration. It just comes as a knowing. So listening to your future self and hearing it requires a next level of trust and knowingness. So there is a deep trust that develops because as it comes to you, you have to trust in the message. You have to trust what it's saying. And sometimes that's a little scary because it gives you information. It's not bullying you in any way. It's not saying this has to be done. There's no agenda. It's very gentle. I'll read you one of mine today. Because I actually wrote the word I don't know if you could say it, what's next for my intention. I lined myself up and I was saying, what's next? And this is what came through. It was just very simple, very gentle, but very profound for me. It said, also in these writing processes, sometimes you'll notice your writing gets a little off, but hopefully I can read this to you. Um, Flowing and clear yourself. Allow. It's all working out. It will be okay. There's nothing to worry about. What now is right now. So stop looking to the future. Appreciate the here and now of everything right now, today, this moment. What now is now. Feel the glow to the next. Feel the flow to the next. Then all is well. That's all. Get present. So it was a simple little message today, But that was exactly what I want. That's exactly what I really wanted to know about. It's just, when I'm cultivating business, when I'm in this space with family, or just building and creating in my life, sometimes I'm like, what's next? What is next? What's the next step? I'm asking for the next step. What is it I'm supposed to do? And we're asking for purpose, and that is just perfect what was said today. What now? What now is now. Get present and allow. And so that's just perfect. For me, that was just exactly what I needed to hear today. So your ascended self most likely will give you that gem that you just needed to hear today. No agenda. It's kind of an inspired thought. Sometimes it's a full page, sometimes it's a half a page, sometimes it's 3 pages long. So that's another thing I do, is sometimes just put a little question or comment, or like, what now? Or, is there a song today? Or, what's, uh, whatever, whatever the intention is. Sometimes I write that on top of the page, and then I get into that active listening mode. So what is your future self saying to you? We all have a future self. We all have an ascended self. Every single one of us is going to ascend and has ascended, right? Because there is no linear timeline. So our future self is our ascended self, and it will talk to us if we're willing to listen and receive. So that receiving mode is really that seventh chakra, right? Open that, expand that out wide, open it up, be in receiving mode. Open that funnel up to receive. And that could be another intention. I receive the light. I receive the light message of my ascended self. And I want a direct link to my future self. That's important too, because I've been learning that there's a lot of other frequencies that try to jump in, that try to kind of hijack that line, okay, and try to speak in there. There's a lot in the unseen world. There's a lot going on that behind the veil and behind dimensions and timelines. It's a lot of frequencies are trying to jump in and sabotage light beings. So you want to get real firm with your direction, and just your firmness and your directness and your boundaries really will help the other frequencies kind of bat off, kind of thing. So when you're doing this, that's why I do this, and I create this line, and I'm like, yes. So just a direct line to my future ascended self and source, nothing else. For me, as me, by me. And you let all other entities and spirit stuff go. To me, that makes a lot of sense. So get really clear in your line of who and what you're talking to. And you will get to know the flavor of your ascended self talking to you. For me, it's not a huge contrast. It sounds like me, but it's an inspired me, and it's not egoic in any way or agenda based. It's a very gentle, usually very gentle message. So your ascended self is talking to you. So line it up, and let me know in the comments what's coming through for you. I'd love to hear it. And as always, beautiful people, I see the light in you, and thank you so much for being here as we remember our greatness and our God spark together. So I'd love to have you in this high vibe tribe. Be sure to subscribe, like, and click the bell, and we really appreciate that. And so let's make this a beautiful day. After this video, be sure, tune in. Listen to your future self, and by all means, please share in the comments. I'd love for this to be a robust community where we really can share these type of things together, so we don't feel so alone in this awakening process. Take care.